I always knew I was living two lives. I just never thought I'd have to face them at the same time. In my head, they were separate, carefully divided, managed, controlled. I told myself I had built enough distance between them that they would never overlap, that I could keep things contained, that I could exist in both worlds without consequences. But I was wrong, because no matter how careful you think you are, two lives like that don't stay separate forever. Eventually, they collide. And when they do, there's no version of you left that survives it. My husband's name is Marcus. We had been married for 8 years. And if you had asked anyone who knew us, they would have said we were solid, dependable, low drama, the kind of couple that just worked. We didn't fight much. We didn't have explosive arguments or obvious issues. From the outside, we looked stable, comfortable, secure. And that's exactly what we were. Comfortable. Maybe too comfortable. Our life had become predictable in a way that felt safe at first. We had routines. Wake up, go to work, come home, eat dinner, watch something, go to bed. Weekends were errands, maybe a dinner out, maybe seeing friends. Nothing bad, nothing wrong, just nothing new. At some point, I stopped noticing Marcus the way I used to. Not because he changed, but because everything about us became expected. Familiar, automatic. We stopped asking each other real questions, stopped checking in emotionally, stopped being curious about each other's thoughts, feelings, or lives. We existed side by side, but not really together. I told myself it was normal, that this is just what long-term relationships turn into, that the excitement fades and what's left is stability. And that stability was supposed to be enough. But over time, it didn't feel like enough anymore. I didn't say anything. Didn't try to fix it. Didn't communicate how I was feeling. Because I didn't even fully understand it myself. I just knew something was missing. And instead of figuring out how to rebuild what I already had, I went looking for something else. That's when I met Ethan. It was at a professional networking event. One of those things I normally wouldn't even go to, but my company encouraged attendance. I almost didn't show up that night. I almost stayed home. And sometimes I think about how everything would be different if I had. But I did go, and I met him. Ethan was the kind of person you notice immediately. Not because he was loud or over the top, but because he had a presence. Confident, relaxed, engaged. When he talked to you, it felt like he was actually listening. Like you were the only person in the room that mattered. We started with small talk, work, mutual connections, the usual. But it shifted quickly. "You don't seem like you enjoy this kind of thing," he said at one point, glancing around the room. I laughed. "I don't." "So why are you here?" I hesitated, because I didn't have a good answer. "I guess I thought I should be," I said finally. He smiled slightly. "That sounds like something someone says when they're used to doing what they're supposed to do." That stuck with me, more than it should have. Because he was right. Before I left that night, we exchanged numbers. And at the time, it didn't feel like anything serious. Just another contact. Another conversation. But that's how it starts. Quietly. In ways that don't feel dangerous at first. We started texting. At first, it was occasional. Then more frequent. Then daily. The conversations got longer. More personal. More honest. He asked questions Marcus hadn't asked me in years. About how I felt. What I wanted. What I thought about my life. And I answered. Honestly. Probably more honestly than I had been with anyone in a long time. That should have been my warning. That level of emotional connection. That's where the line really starts to blur. But I didn't pull back. I leaned into it. The flirting came naturally after that. Subtle at first. Then obvious. Then intentional. And eventually, it crossed the line. I remember the moment clearly. Because part of me knew exactly what I was doing. And part of me didn't want to stop. Afterward, I sat alone for a while, thinking, processing, realizing what I had just done. I told myself it would be a one-time mistake, something I would end immediately, something I would never let happen again. But I didn't end it, because it didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like something I had been missing. And that's how it continued. Weeks turned into months. And before I realized it, I was living two completely different lives. With Marcus, I was stable, routine, predictable. With Ethan, I was someone else entirely. Exciting, spontaneous, wanted, and I kept those lives separate. Carefully, deliberately. I created distance between them. Different routines, different times, different spaces. I told myself I was in control, that I could manage it, that I could keep everything from overlapping. That was the biggest lie I told myself. Because no matter how careful you are, eventually something slips. The night everything fell apart started like any other. Marcus told me we were going out to dinner. Nothing unusual. We did that occasionally. But something about him felt different that night. Not angry, not distant. Just more focused, quieter. I noticed it, but I ignored it, because I didn't want to think too deeply about it. When we arrived at the restaurant, he told the hostess we had a reservation. For 4. My stomach tightened slightly. 4? I asked. He nodded. I invited someone. A small sense of unease crept in. Who? You'll see? That should have been enough to stop me, to question things, to realize something wasn't right. But I didn't. We followed the hostess to the table. And that's when everything changed. Because sitting there was Ethan, and across from him was a woman I had never seen before. For a second, my brain couldn't process what I was looking at. Ethan looked just as shocked as I felt. His expression mirrored mine. Confusion, panic, realization. Marcus pulled out my chair. Sit. I sat, because I didn't know what else to do. The air at that table felt heavy, like everything was about to collapse. Marcus sat down calmly, like this was all completely normal. Then he spoke. This is my wife. The woman across from Ethan looked at me, then back at Marcus. And this, Marcus continued, looking at Ethan, is the man she's been seeing. Everything stopped. The woman's face changed instantly. Confusion turned into shock. Shock turned into anger. What? She said, her voice shaking. Ethan didn't answer, because there was nothing he could say. Marcus leaned back in his chair. Calm, controlled. I thought it would be better if everything was out in the open. I couldn't breathe. How long? I asked, my voice barely working. Long enough, Marcus replied. That's when I realized he had known. The woman stood up suddenly. You've been cheating on me? She said to Ethan. He tried to respond, tried to explain, but it didn't matter, because the truth was already sitting at the table. Exposed, unavoidable. Marcus finally looked at me, and in that moment, I knew. There was nothing left. I'm done, he said. Simple, calm, final, and just like that. Both of my lives. The one I tried to protect, and the one I tried to escape into, collapsed at the same time. Because the truth is, you can't divide yourself forever. Eventually, everything comes together, and when it does, you don't get to choose what survives. You lose it all.